I have to push. Yes, I found the microphone. Hello, everyone. Wow, thank you very much for coming. I've been coming 10 years to Perugia, and it's the first time I have this room, so I'm slightly intimidated by the size. I normally have a smaller room, but I'll try my best to make it as interesting as possible. And I'll try to keep some space for questions, but again, it's quite a packed presentation. With that said, maybe good to ask who in the room knows Wayfinder. Just raise of hands. Oh, well, quite good. So it's a weekly newsletter trying to connect the dots in the changing media landscape across multiple domains. And it's my way to keep track of the madness. It's all happening so fast, both as a director of strategy and innovation at the Dutch public broadcaster and as AI in media advisor for OneIFRA. And yes, lately it's a lot about AI, as you have noticed. Every year I also release a trend report with over 100 pages of trends. Don't worry, we're not going to see 100 pages. This is an abbreviated and updated version of it. And the main theme of this year's report was very much the power shift in media. One that's fundamentally altering who has the power to shape our information landscape. Because we're watching traditional publishers hand over their authority to AI systems that can create content at scale. We're seeing individual creators build followings that rival media companies and major media companies. And all of us as audiences have regained some new controls over how and where we are experiencing content. And many of these changes are connected to the rise of AI, algorithms, and digital platforms. The original report contains 9 dynamics that I see shaping the next shift in media, but today I want to concentrate on 6 of these ones. And the starting point is that new role of AI, reshaping media, and with that, the power in the value chain. AI forces us all to think about how we want to collaborate with these machines. And it creates new challenges as it is disrupting traditional paths to information. But it also brings new opportunities, with media breaking away from fixed formats. And it allows for endless scale, which is both an opportunity and a threat. And digital doubt is becoming the new normal. But first, let's take a step back, because it's not just in the media that we have the feeling that we have lost control. Something is unhinged. It feels the world as we knew it is coming apart. What once felt certain, our global economy, cooperation, trust in facts, stable institutions, now feels shaky and unpredictable, not in the least because of a certain person in America. In Ipsos predictions for 2025, 82% of the people said they feel powerless regarding developments in the world. Consumers indicate they're deeply concerned about climate, conflict, the impact of AI on society. And that means that we have a kind of a sense of a loss that sends us collectively in different stages of grief. And news headlines amplify this. They amplify the shock, the denial, the anger that we have, the depression, the bargaining over reality, and perhaps on one day, acceptance. But for now, anger seems to be the dominant emotion, with social media being the amplifier. And this example is an analysis of the prevailing feelings in the run-up of the US elections last year. And as you can see, anger towers above all other emotions on social media in that specific context. And in that whole cocktail of emotions, AI is a new force that also divides us quite a bit. Because research shows that on the one hand, we're enthusiastic about the potential benefits. 60% see it as a time saver, but our concerns are at least as great. 55% fear it will add more problems. So against that background, let's take a look at the first new dynamic, and that's that new wave of AI that we can no longer just dismiss as just a hype. The numbers tell the story. ChatGPT has currently 500 million weekly active users and is still growing strong. In my own region, in Flanders, 68% of the 18 to 24-year-olds are now active users of AI assistants, and that's up 26% in 1 year time. And perhaps the most telling for our industry, in the US, AI subscriptions have surpassed new subscriptions among adults between 18 and 54-year-olds. So AI has become a utility in a record time, even if it's still far from perfect. AI tools are so popular that they're already reshaping the web, even changing digital culture as we know it. A good example is the rise of so-called vibe coding, where anyone can create apps just by describing what they want. Or the rush on ChatGPT's new image feature, where the idea of copyright seems to have melded with our wish to have Ghibli-style selfies of ourselves. And meanwhile, what was magical 2 years ago is rapidly becoming a commodity. Leading AI providers are now within single-digit percentage points of each other on key benchmarks, with both private models and open source ones are almost equally smart. And at the same time, the cost of AI processing is dropping dramatically, making AI effectively accessible and affordable to everyone. And this means that for major AI players, that the competition is increasingly now on features, which they are rapidly copying from each other. There's native integrations, there's conversational interfaces, there's canvas-based workspaces, there's connections to the web in real time. As soon as one company launches a capability, the others are quickly following. And that means that just as people are no longer choosing cars primarily for their horsepower, they're now looking at the overall experience. The AI market is rapidly moving to a place where just the raw model performance is not the main differentiator anymore. It's more about that whole complete ecosystem and the user experience. And that is a domain that we as media know well. And I think we should be able to match that with our own experiences. Embracing AI as a part of the new reality also means figuring out how to work with it and work between humans and machines. And for most newsrooms, that process starts by taking a hard look at how they work currently. What are the tedious actions that can be automated? What are some of the time-consuming actions that can be shrunk down? And the result is that the process of producing and distributing news is becoming compressed. In some cases, it even disappears. Think of transcriptions of long interviews, reformatting of content, autodesking your homepage, smart moderation, just a few examples. And the next step is that these AI functions start getting a dedicated place in the workflows, either directly integrated into the CMS or in so-called AI toolboxes that accelerate frequent tasks, such as creating short summaries, coming up with SEO titles, quick translations, or adapting formats to social media. And we're already seeing some tangible results from early adopters. Tamedia has reduced the production time of local newsletters by 80%. Shipset has a transcription tool that has saved them 10,000 of hours of journalists' time. And at Reach, the speed of publishing breaking news has dropped from 9 minutes to just 90 seconds, just by refining that process. But the question is, of course, should we just make the process more efficient? Or does AI allow for a whole new approach to creating and distributing news? Not as a linear flow, but rather a set of connected loops, connecting AI, humans, audiences, and systems with data, services, and tools. With AI in the loop, humans are still the main actors. AI just adds intelligence and support, like a smart grammar and style checker. The flip side of that is human in the loop. Here, AI does most of the work, while humans are supervising and guiding it, turning like written articles into short videos automatically, for example, with a human quality check at the end. System in the loops are a third option. Here, machines talk to other machines and automatically update reports. For example, regenerating breaking news as new information comes in. And finally, AI offers the opportunity to bring the audience in the loop at every step of the reporting process. A good example is Waves of Interest, which was a dashboard made by Google during the American elections. It showed what people searched for during the elections, and it revealed their questions and concerns that were most on their mind during that period, creating a new kind of feedback loop for information that an editorial team could make content on. So all these connected loops require a different, more collaborative, more story-based organization. Work happens in parallel rather than step by step. Jobs are changing because journalists are learning to work with AI tools. Quality checks become more vital than ever, but can also be partly automated. And audience engagement becomes an ongoing opportunity rather than something that you just do at the end or at publishing. And the benefits should be more time for boots on the ground, deeper journalism, but there is of course also a clear risk of depending too much on AI and losing that human touch. Because perhaps this is just a start. The biggest unknown is how quickly AI will go from being just a tool in your box to something that you could consider more as a collaborator. So-called agents that can figure out and complete tasks on their own, can use tools, can interact, can remember progress, can learn from experiences. We are clearly not there yet, but projects like Claude Computer Use, Google Gemini's, and OpenAI's Operator are all pushing these capabilities forwards. AI is not only changing how we produce content and news, it's increasingly also challenging how everything is discovered and distributed. While it's still early, figures indicate that traditional search is shifting. Google is still quite strong there, but it is slowing down. Referrals from AI chatbots have increased by 5.5 million in 1 year time in the US, but that couldn't offset the loss of more than 64 million search engine referrals in the same time. So search as a sort of traffic is becoming less of a certainty. And meanwhile, AI chatbots are transforming traditional search from a list of links to destinations to something that gives directly answers. And in the end, that's a very existential question. Are users looking to find news, or do they want to have questions answered? And what value can we offer beyond the summary? Because the question is a very pressing one. AI subscriptions, as I told before, are growing fast, especially among young people. About 15% of 18 to 24-year-olds and 18% of 25 to 34-year-olds are now paying for AI services in the US, according to that recent survey. And that's more than those who pay for news. And one reason is that AI services aren't just about news. They help with shopping, they help with health questions, they help with education, they help with language translation. They create a much broader relationship with the user than a typical news subscription. And this is not just the case with ChatGPT, which is the most popular. It's happening everywhere AI interfaces are offered. Microsoft and Apple are bringing it to their operating systems. New smart apps like Particle News, they create smart summaries. AI models are built on top of, there's new products that are built on top of AI models, like Perplexity. And finally, we see them also appearing in social media apps, which in turn start to offer news, entertainment, and sports as answers on questions. Each of these platforms becomes an answering machine that potentially places itself between our audiences and our journalism, and that provide direct answers with our journalism. And the integration of AI interactions is actually taking place on 3 different levels, and each of these levels means some additional control is taken. New chat apps are trying to position themselves as a new destination with specific AI features. That's quite powerful, but it's also limited because you have to actively access that specific app and use it. At the browser level, AI can transform any web page that you view. When you read an article, it can immediately summarize it or translate it or transform it in any way. But the real control, of course, takes place at the operating system level. AI is built into Windows, in iOS, in Android, by default, and sees everything, your emails, your documents, your searches, your media habits, and it can offer personalized news based on that information. So the deeper the integration, the more control these systems have, the more data they use, and the more difficult it becomes for media to maintain that direct relationship with the public. The next major shift involves how content adapts to user needs and contexts. We're moving beyond static formats to experiences that transform and respond to how, when, and where they're consumed. Because the latest generation of AI models are increasingly so-called multimodal. They're able to generate and reason across any type of media, text, and audio. And this means that anything can, in theory, become anything. Text can become a video, images become animations, static content becomes dynamic. And this fluidity means that one well-researched story can take on countless forms to meet the audience wherever they are and whenever they need it. So if we take a step back, we can see how transformative this is for media. Because initially, media was like a train. It was a fixed format, it was scheduled, it was for mass audiences. We all got on. With digital, it moved to an on-demand experience, like an Uber, flexible and for individual consumption. But with AI, we enter a new fluid state, which feels more like the holodeck from Star Trek. I don't know if you remember, but it builds itself an experience around you. It's content that actively changes to fit you. It becomes interactive, it becomes personal, and even something that you will help create. And this completely changes, of course, the relationship between content creators and audiences. The first way we're already seeing this are experiments where static articles are evolving into something more of a multimodal experience. An article gets a voice, comes alive in pictures and images, gets animated, all dynamically generated from the original text. And this is an example, I know there's a session about it here in Perugia, from the Philippines, which is worth exploring, where a long read was turned into a 30-minute documentary with a voiceover, a soundtrack, and animation by one single journalist in 2 days' time. The next level of this evolution are stories that evolve in real time as new data and developments are emerging, as I showed before, or articles that turn into real conversation. One example that I like is Spotify's idea of a day list. That's a playlist that adapts through the day and the user context. So in the morning it will sound different than in the evening, but it stays the same playlist. And it becomes a more living, responsive experience. And why stop there? What if the format and the interface could change depending on your need? No time to read? Well, here's a short podcast. Too hard to understand? Well, explain it to me like I'm 5. New entrants like Particle News are revolving around the idea of need-based experiences, while Google is experimenting with interfaces that are generated based on your question. A weather question might trigger a weather app, and a cooking question might give you an easy instruction list to cook. We're almost halfway through, and the next dynamic has everything to do with the search for scale, also powered by AI. And scale online starts primarily with the enormous number of people who create content today. There's more than 50 million creators trying to making a living with content online, also news content, also information. They're cheaper than traditional media, they're more personal, they're more targeted, and they fill the niche infinitely. They have really a long tail they serve. And the biggest growth driver is social video. It is predicted as much as 82% of everything that we consume online will be social video by the end of the year. And here too, the impact of AI will be felt, because individual creators are getting more and more tools to scale their work, from easy production tools to creating AI clones of themselves, which is already happening, which will result in some called like nano newsrooms, nano content businesses in the future, complete media organizations with 1 or 2 people at the core. The downside is, of course, that the digital noise caused by all those AI tools will also increase. Already more than 19% of all content online is AI generated, according to a study of the top 20% search results. So the question becomes more than ever, how do you remain visible if there's this amount of noise outside there? And that question becomes even more compelling when you know that the access to that content and all of your digital services is increasingly in the hands of a handful of companies. Companies that are also increasingly courting President Trump and his protectionist ideas. They run our payments, our media, our cloud services, our products, our data storage, and now also our AI models. And they do it at an enormous scale that is barely comprehensible. You can't really call it a competition. The presence and the budget of these tech giants are, for instance, 44 times larger than all public broadcasters in Europe combined. So public broadcasters and publishers find themselves between 2 large groups, that one group of growing individual makers, and then something that's bigger than life, the tech giants. We're gradually coming to an end, and I think trust or distrusting is a determining dimension in that new media reality. It is the distrust of what is digital that is becoming the new normal. And this is also because there's an exponential increase, not only in noise, but really in scams, in deception and misinformation online. If you want to know where AI is used, it's used in these cases most. And this increase has everything to do with the fact that it's so incredibly easy to create fakes. A deep fake is actually something that's now standard in your Android phone with Google Magic Editor. The public is rightly concerned about this because it becomes something that's increasingly visible. And the cost of all this is a decline in confidence and above all, suspicion. Like we're always hesitating, we're always not sure anymore. Nearly 60% of people ask questions about online content more than before. And almost half of them are often or constantly doubting news items because of the fact that there's so much that to doubt about. And this new distrust and also the multitude of digital noise makes also that we as media companies must expand our defense mechanisms around, I guess, around 3 axes. There's expanding measures which we can increase, trust measures, transparency rules, having good organizational safeguards, and then kind of a new technical arsenal to detect AI and to check facts and make sure that you are well equipped for that. To close, I want to look also a bit positively ahead and point to some of the other of the options that we have, because it's quite dystopian, I know. Because I believe that we can still write the future together. I don't believe this is just happening to us. I think we have agency and we have to just deal with it very actively. First, by indicating where we want to focus on. It's on people, on public values, on our responsibility for the ecosystem, in balance with the new technical possibilities and what is needed to safeguard our position in the market. It's also meaning highlighting where we as humans really make a difference. It's our faces, our voices, the real stories, our connections with the ground. The New York Times does this by showcasing their journalists more prominent than before. Our own broadcaster in our public broadcasting system, Human, has chosen to campaign on a radical human approach as a way to brand themselves in this new ecosystem. We know from various studies that younger generations want the news more personal, relevant, but also authentic, through faces and voices they trust at the moment and the topics that matter. AI can play a role, but that authenticity is really important for them. And another aspect is, and an observation, is that we want to regain some of that control. We started with the fact that we're losing that sense, but giving back control to an audience. You don't want to be trapped by a recommendation, but you also want to have the ability to reset the whole thing, reset the algorithm, reset your experience, and start from a clean sheet. There's also a possibility to look differently at personalizations. It doesn't have to be just a bubble for one person. Why not create shared moments in media with several people on the couch following a story? Recommendations for families, for friends, across generations. We have the first time so many generations that are still together in one time frame. And TF1 is actually doing this and showing that it's possible. And finally, and I like this the most, is leaving some room for chaos, for spontaneous, for the things that are organic, what's not calculated. Not everything has to be clean, calculated. Leave some time for wilderness in which the audience can get lost. I think where you allow it, communities will spontaneously claim the digital space, and then again, we can have a relationship with that community. That's it. I know it was quite a lot. Please reach out to me if you want to receive the slides. I'm happy to share them and happy to take some questions. I'm looking at the back of the room. Do we still have time? We have 5 minutes of time for those that have questions. So, looking. Yeah.
Thank you, Ezra. My name is Gökşen Çalışkan. I'm from Belgium. I'm a media business professional. Great slides and insights. My question is, I already feel so overwhelmed with whatever is happening, and I imagine everyone in the room feels the same. If you were to give an advice to from a small to mid-sized media business, where would you start this AI journey for short-term, mid-term, and long-term?
Well, one thing that we did and do at the public broadcaster for our AI strategy is very much looking at who do we try to be, what's our mission, and really how does it help any of the things that we try to do. We try to reach the whole of the Netherlands. That means AI that helps us to make things more accessible is a really good use case for us. Thinking how we can reach those audiences that we're not reaching before, like younger audiences. If AI can help us to reformat our content in ways that can reach these audiences, then that's a good way to think of it. And we do also look at, can we create value more efficiently? Because there are things that are tedious, that are taking time from people, and if we can free them up by giving them some time back. So we have looked very much at what are we trying to do? What's the core mission that we're trying to realize, and how can AI help rather than the other way around, because otherwise you just get drawn into all the possibilities and the dangers that you see. So start from your mission and your vision.
Hi, I'm Martin Johnson from Bonnie News. OpenAI ChatGPT changed a lot in their image generator in the past few weeks, now making it possible to imitate the style of different artists and photographers, including in editing text and images, and also making photorealistic images of public figures. So basically, they built a deepfake generator. What's your take on this? Are they at the least resonant to this discussion of deepfakes, or do they just want to be the best deepfake generator among its competitors?
Well, it will be hard for them to turn it back, because they've seen an increase, a super increase of use. I think they had like 1 million new users in an hour when they just started this. I think we'll have to push back on the responsibility that they have to clearly and transparently make it clear that these are generated images by some kind of watermarking, by some kind of way that there is transparency over the origin of the generation, and that people can actually make the distinction between what's a fake generated image and a real image. However, that will require a collaboration and kind of thinking across the industry, and I know that the C2PA, which is like a way to think about transparency across the industry, is already being interpreted in two ways. As a publisher, we look at transparency to make clear that our content is made by humans, and the industries wants to use exactly the same protocol to show that something was generated by AI. These are two conflicting use cases, and I'm not sure how we will resolve that. So I don't have a clear answer. I think we are out of time. Yes, we are out of time.